Hey folks, thanks for tuning in again and joining me at the back of the pack in the world of running behind. I'm Joey Metzger, your aid station captain on this slow running adventure. In episode 4, we chart a new path. We head down trails unknown. We leave our familiar roads and routes behind as my guest leads us towards things like quantum nutrition testing, 6-centimeter brain lesions, Eastern versus Western, chiropractic adjustments, winning bikes at bar trivia, and most importantly, how to get 12 million views on your Instagram post. I'm joined by a special guest and my chiropractor, Dr. Adrienne Castrovinci. We talk all things intriguing. And yeah, I guess we talk a little running too. So get those Brooks Ghosts or whatever the hell you're wearing these days on and head out for your run. But don't dilly-dally, we got a lot of cool stuff to cover. So get laced up, and I'll see you on the other side. Everybody, I have a really special guest today, and I know this is a running podcast, but we're going to talk a lot of not running stuff today, and it's going to be awesome. I have with me my chiropractor, Dr. Adrienne. Dr. Adrienne, I know that you have another last name. Do we even want to say that? I always just call you Dr. Adrienne. Should we just leave it at that, or do you want to tell people?
You can do both. I have a couple last names. So
you do?
My work last name is Castrovinci, which is my maiden name, which is way cooler than my married last name. So I love my husband.
Castrovinci's pretty cool, yeah.
Pretty cool. So yeah, Dr. Adrienne Castrovinci is like my real work name. Castrovinci is legally my middle name. So my last name is actually Schnur, which is my husband's name, our name.
Oh, okay.
So Adrienne
Very nice.
Castrovinci Schnur is like my true legal name, but Dr. Adrienne in the practice is generally.
Yeah, I just call you Dr. Adrienne, so that's what I'm going to go with today. Castrovinci, that's got to be Italian?
Yeah, Sicilian,
Greek,
actually.
Italian?
Yeah,
Sicilian.
Yep.
Of course.
Yeah.
Schnur, what is that?
I think it's German. There's like no.
Sure.
There's like one U, you know, so it's like.
Metzger, Schnur. Yeah, that's got to be German.
Metzger.
All right. So, I start all of these off. I'm just getting new to the whole podcaster thing. So I thought I got to have some cold plunge questions. So, and just so you know, Dr. Adrienne is a runner. We will talk some running and her running routines and history, but we're going to save that for the end. We're going to talk some other stuff first. So my questions to you are, number one, give me one word that kind of describes you as a person.
Impulsive.
Love it. Nice. And that was very quick. It was very impulsive. Yeah. Perfect. Second cold plunge question, one word that describes you as a runner. Since we're on a running podcast.
Oh, God. You know what? I find satisfying. I don't know. Therapeutic.
Okay.
Therapeutic.
Very nice. I like it. My last guest, friend of mine, Eric Walker, his word was enjoyment. So yeah, that works totally. Last question is why are you doing this pod with me? Why did you agree? What are you thinking?
Well, I don't know. I think that you've got a really cool story. And whenever you come into the office, we always have really great conversations about things. And then when you mentioned that you were starting this, I was like, I totally want to be on it. So I don't know.
Love it. I love it. And thank you very much.
Of course.
You have done other podcasts as well, right?
I've done a couple others. Yeah.
Okay, I'm not running podcasts, I assume, more medically related stuff? Or?
Correct. One was more of a root cause, and the other one was a autism, like the world of autism, because I work with autistic kids.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's not going to be as awesome as today, though. I mean, look, I've got guitars and Ducatis. How cool is this going to be, right?
Amazing.
Okay, normally I would start with your running history. We're going to save that. I want to start with your chiropractic history. So you are a chiropractor. When did you decide you want to do that, and how much schooling? And give us a little background on how you became a chiropractor.
Sure. I think I always knew I wanted to be in the medical field. When I was 11, I had surgery on my foot, and I thought that Dr. Bianco, my orthopedic surgeon, was like the man. So I wanted to be him. And so I knew I wanted to get into some medical field. I started undergrad as a kind of pre-PT physical therapy type major. And then I volunteered in did an internship in a PT clinic, and I was like, man, I don't want to do this. I kind of didn't really want to be told by the doctors what to do. I was like,
Right.
I don't know. So then I graduated with an athletic training degree. I was an athletic trainer in college, and I didn't really want to
Oh,
be, I didn't
wow.
want to be a trainer either. I mean, I loved it. I loved working with the athletes, but I didn't want the nights and weekends, and I didn't really want that as a job either. So I graduated, and I was like, they're like, what are you going to be? I'm like, I don't know. Not sure yet. So
Yep.
I had seen a chiropractor when I was younger. I was a gymnast,
Yeah.
so I dealt with a lot of injuries
Oh,
myself,
wow.
and saw a chiropractor probably when I was 11 or 12 as well. And my dad one day was like, "Why don't you look into chiropractic? Why don't you explore that?" And I was like,
Yeah.
Okay." So I went to the school that's here in Minnesota, in Bloomington, actually, and I took a tour, and it was one of those like, I don't know if godly experience is the right way to say, but I'm walking down the hall, and the lady who was giving me the tour was explaining kind of the program, how your basic sciences, then it's more clinical sciences, then it gets into more of the hands-on, and it just like hit me in the hallway. I was like, this is exactly where I need to be. And I mean,
This is it.
there's no other way to really describe it other than like, this is
Yeah.
what you're doing. I'm like,
Yep.
guess this is what I'm
Hit you.
doing.
So how, is that a like a same as a medical terms of like years of schooling, similar, I
You
assume?
know, in school, yes. So it was a trimester program. So it was like 3.5 years essentially.
Okay.
We don't have like the fellowships, and we don't have the other extras additional. So after the 3.5 years and four
Yeah.
parts of boards, you're done. So, but I
Okay.
did have a full undergrad. So I was in college for a good, 8.5. I mean, let's be real, 9 years. So long time.
Yeah. Yeah, I flunked out after one, and then I eventually found my way back, and I think I left my senior year to pursue my acting
Yeah.
career. So there you go. When you started out, were you immediately having your own practice, or was that something? Were you with somebody else, and then eventually you spun off to? And the name of your practice is Healthy Living Chiropractic. I want to get that out there. Thank you. And folks, I am going to be promoting the crap out of her Instagram. Oh, wow. There we
You can
go.
do.
Love it. Yeah. 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 No, we're going to promote the heck out of your stuff
Thanks.
because you do some amazing Instagram posts that absolutely do not get enough likes. You get like 12 million on the baby stuff,
I
but we
know.
got to get your other stuff some.
I know.
Yeah.
Um,
So did you start out in your own practice, or is that something that came after a period of time?
No, it came after a short period of time. After I got licensed in January of, gosh, '04, forever ago, I started working for a kind of a PI clinic. So PI is personal injury. So a clinic that was managed by a guy that lived in Vegas. He was totally shady. They're since out of business.
Was his name Saul? Did he have greased
No,
back hair?
kind of though. He roid rage. I mean, he was not. He was just dead.
Oh my
Anyway, yeah,
gosh.
no. He
Funny.
did not really work with me. He owned the clinic, but whatever. Um, no, I worked there for about 7 or 8 months, and I really got a feel for the part of the practice that I didn't really like. You know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
learned a ton, and I learned I don't really like that. And then I had an opportunity. I knew a guy who owned a gym who needed someone to rent space and wanted to rent it to a chiropractor. So I was like, I'll start a business. I just
Wow.
decided to start a
Wow.
practice just kind of on my own with a couple grand in my
How
pocket.
many how many years ago is it? 20 years ago you
Yeah,
started this business?
2004.
You have your own business for
Yeah,
20 years.
20
That's
years.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think people don't realize sometimes, and I think dentists do that. There's several people in the medical field. They start their own business.
Yeah.
It's like, hello, I'm
No
doing my
idea.
own business here.
I had no idea what I was doing. I still kind of don't, but
What do you enjoy the most about being an independent business owner?
oh, let's see. I think the level of freedom of kind of making the decisions that I want, but yet that level of freedom almost can get overwhelming. So it's like a give and take, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
So what do you hate the most?
Making all the decisions all the time.
Of course.
All of
Got it.
No, it's great.
Got it.
I can be I
All
can
right.
have my level of autonomy and do kind of what I
Yeah.
want. And
Love it. All right. So, a little bit of my history. I go through this a little bit on the first podcast, Dr. Adrienne, and I know you know my history of how I came to see you. I was working, not my current company and not the company I worked at with Eric Walker, a different company. I was working at, and I think our HR and benefits had reached out, had a relationship with you and your clinic, and reached out. You were at a health fair, and I think I got a massage or something. And I was just experiencing, I think like I was with my buddy in Kentucky where I was just like my lower body went numb. I couldn't walk. I couldn't walk to the next bourbon bar. I mean, how tragic is that? And so I was like, you were like, you should come. I was like, yeah, I've never been to a chiropractor. Nobody in my family that I knew of really did that. So I was like, I think my sister did. My sister Teresa, she and her family always have done a lot of chiropractic care. So I was like, yes, let's try that. I got to try something. And so when I came to see you, I was having the paralysis, the sciatica, and I think we did images. But basically, it's like anything. It pushes on my sciatica. My legs go numb. I was doing a run this morning, 2 miles. Of course, it was numb for the first half of it. That's just what I deal with. But going to you, doing the adjustments, doing my running, my stretching, my walking, all of that has really, really helped me. Do you get a lot of patients like me, like where they've had something and they have issues like numbness, or is that pretty common?
It is. It's more common, I'd say, in the arms due to people that work at like desk offices. So like sitting and doing this with a mouse all day long causes a lot of tension here. So I see more upper back and finger numbness. I do see some low back and, too, but I'd say upper is more common that I see.
And I don't know if I'm sure I told you this, but I've been going to you for 6 years now, every 2 weeks.
Yep.
I think it was every week for a while, but it's every 2 weeks now for the last many years. And when I came to you, I had also gone to TRIA for an x-ray on my ankle. Was hurting so bad. They're like, your ankle's fine. They shot it up with something. And that was one of the things I was like, what do you mean a chiropractor can help with your arms and your ankles? I thought it was just your back. And you started adjusting my ankles. And literally in 6 years, I've not had a problem with that bloody ankle ever again. So thank you.
There's a lot of joints in your ankle. And if they're stuck and restricted, they can hurt. So I know we've talked about this. You have other runners, since it's a running podcast, you have other runners that you treat. Right.
What do they typically come in for? Just kind of, maintenance, or are they having specific issues, or? It
really depends. I mean, someone usually first sees me for the first time when they have an issue. Rarely is someone walking in my door being like, I just want to be better. They have a pain point that needs to be addressed. And so with runners, oftentimes it's foot pain or ankle pain or low back pain or hamstring stuff, kind of like what you dealt with. But for the most part, I mean, I've got a number of runners I work on, and it's a lot of low back. It's a lot of foot and ankle tightness. It's a lot of neck and shoulder stuff, and kind of the same things that you deal with. But I always make sure I work on runners' feet and their knees and all of that, because if the base is off, it's going to affect the low back.
Yeah. I'm always surprised when I come in and you're like, oh, your one leg is longer than the other leg?
Yeah.
What causes that? How does that happen? Like, I'm like, what? What are you talking about? My leg is longer. What causes that? And how do you get it adjusted so it's back to normal?
It's caused by your hips. So I'm Italian, so I'm a very visual, use my hands kind of person. So your hips kind of do this when you walk, right? So this is like your big hip bones, right? So if your one hip is pulled back a little bit, see what it's doing to my wrist? It's pulling it up. So essentially, if you're laying down, you've got a hiked up hip, it's going to cause your leg to look shorter. It's coming from your pelvis. And so the misalignment of your pelvis. So by adjusting the pelvis and allowing it to be more mobile and in the right position, if you will, it allows that leg to be the same length. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, it does. That's crazy. I'm always just like, my leg is shorter. What in the world? But
from your hip and your femur.
Huh. You actually do you do more, you do a lot of kid stuff, because I know on Instagram you've talked about that, some of the posts you've had on kids. You have one that had like what, 10 million or a million views or something?
Like 12 million.
12 million views.
It was like my third reel I ever did. It was like,
he had 12 million views, and it was like, I forget, you're like adjusting the neck or something on a kid?
Yeah, I was using a pediatric headpiece. That's like a tool that I use. I don't do any twisting with young children really until they're like age 7. So I used a pediatric headpiece, and I'm literally just adjusting the kid's neck, and it just went. Yeah.
In preparation for this, I was watching through some of them. My favorite one is you've got an infant, and you can tell like the infant's like discomfort, in pain, and its leg, like the hip. The hip is not, is like out of alignment, and you're like, no, I got this. And what did you do? But like literally, like the next part of the video, you see the kid. The kid's like legs are straight. Kid's like sleeping away, sucking on a pacifier.
Yeah, yeah. Well, just like you, I mean, if your hip is restricted, it causes you numbness and tingling and sciatic pain. When a kid's hip or pelvis, I mean, think about birth, right? And being in utero, things can be off, right? But if the kid's hip or pelvis is off and restricted, they're gonna cry, they're gonna squirm, they're gonna be irritable, they're not gonna sleep. That's how the kid is gonna present. We adjust the baby, not like how I adjust you, but very gently. And then once it's calm, it's like, once it's moving, baby's like, all right, that's what I needed. It feels better. They're
Wow.
relaxed.
How do our parents like? Are they hesitant to have you adjust their kids, or are these parents that like, no, I get this done all the time. I know this is. Does it take some convincing to say, yeah, give me your kid. I can help.
I mean, there's all of the above. By the time they come in to see me, they've been told by somebody that they need some help. So they reach out to me because they have heard it from someone.
Wow.
But there's a level of I'm always talking to parents and always being like, okay, explaining what I'm going to do. I kind of like to over explain to make sure the parent's comfortable because I want them to understand what's going on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm just fascinated by it.
It's
Like I
fun.
said, I didn't grow up with, the first time I really heard about chiropractic was I have a sister, and she'd always taken her family to the chiropractor. And I was always like, oh, okay. I didn't know that was an option.
Yeah.
And then of course, when I had my issues and I came to you, I was like, okay, that's what a chiropractor is. But
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about some of the other stuff you do as well. Here's a question I have. So when I think of chiropractic care, I think of Eastern versus Western medicine. What is that something that you have in your mindset too? Like chiropractic to me, it's not. I mean, it's both. It's science, and it's it's what I would call physics, but it seems a little more Eastern medicine versus Western medicine. What's your thoughts on Western medicine? Let's talk.
Well,
You like it? Are you for it? Are you pro or con? Pro or con?
everything has its place. I think that
Yeah.
I think that the allopathic medical model that we have in our country, I mean, emergency medicine, hands down, orthopedic medicine, hands down. My kid just had surgery last week. Like, I can't do anything for that. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
So I think everything has its place. But when it comes to chronic disease, when it comes to like making you healthy, what the Western medicine has is literally drugs, which are oftentimes toxic and poisonous. Some save lives, hands down, but some don't, and some cause more harm than good. And, I think that there can always be a good balance when they're all used appropriately, My kid,
Right.
again, that had surgery, she's taking narcotics right now because she's been in a lot of pain. That's what they're there for, in small doses as needed. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that's kind of what I'm saying. I'm not a drug basher, but
Right.
let's try to maybe find a different solution first that is more natural, that comes from the earth, you know what I mean, that it's been around
Yep.
forever. And if we can handle it that way, awesome. If we can't, we need to bring in heavy hitters, then we do.
Yeah.
You do its best.
I got to tell you, I love that philosophy, and I think I grew up with my mom and dad. They're both gone now, but they both it was all Western medicine. Give me pills, and if they're hurting me, give me more pills to counteract those pills. I mean, when my mom passed away, we had like cabinets that were just stocked full of 6 months of medications, and it was crazy. And obviously, like you say, some of that stuff was absolutely necessary. Blood thinners, things like that. You got to have them. But it can get really crazy. And I think, too, there's a good balance of Eastern and homeopathic. And I know, like, when I walk in there, you always have some video going about like you always tie the chiropractic to different organs, different issues going on internally. And I just think that's fascinating. Is that something like you're taught when you're going to chiropractic school, or is that something you just kind of develop? Everyone kind of develops their own? way with that.
No, I mean it's taught. I mean, chiropractic is essentially the study of the nerve. It's the nervous system, the brain, the spinal cord, and all the spinal nerves. And those spinal nerves are housed by and protected by the spine. So we're kind of looked at as back doctors in our society, but honestly, we're nervous system doctors. So the neurology is really kind of the science behind chiropractic. It's neurology. So each individual segment on your spine has a nerve that's attached to it that goes to a different part of the body that kind of relates to where that one comes out. So that's why, when kids have ear infections or people have ear infections, there can be a problem up here at C1 because that's what feeds that area.
Wow.
Same with the headaches, low back stuff. If someone's dealing with like pain in the mid to lower part of the back and they're having digestive issues, it's because those nerves are connected by at that region of the spine. So that's really what it is we're doing.
Yeah, I love that. I think, I don't know, I don't think enough people take advantage of that.
Agreed.
I really think there's so many things we can do that are, Western medicine, like you said, has its place. There's so many other things we can do to help our bodies and help ourselves be healthy.
And I'm going to not necessarily say things positive about my profession. I think that my profession as a whole has been terrible at educating the general public. And, we've kind of been, there's a long history of like the AMA versus the chiropractors and all this stuff. There's lawsuits back in the 70s and, there's a pretty rich history there. But yeah, to be honest, I don't think that enough chiros really, or chiropractors really share that message. And many do, of course, but we kind of don't have the big advertising budgets that the drug companies have. So we're lower on the totem pole that way.
You don't have big pharma behind you.
We don't. I have a shirt that says Farms Not Pharma, and I actually wore it to go pick up my daughter's prescription yesterday. I was like,
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's great. Okay, so do you, in terms of benefits for chiropractic care, and I want to talk about a couple other things, do you recommend for people, to have an issue before you go in, or should everyone go in? Is it, and I probably know what you're going to say, but should everyone go see a chiropractor?
You have a spine.
This is a dumb question. This is a dumb question, Joey.
Do you have a spine? Do you have a nervous system? No, what I notice more than anything is most often people do come in because they have a concern. There's something that's brought them to that place. But honestly, what I notice with most people is they don't realize how crappy, I'm not sure how PG your podcast is, they don't realize how—
It's fine. Say what you want.
How crappy they really are feeling until we start addressing things. They're like, oh my God, I had no idea that those daily headaches weren't normal. I had no idea that shoulder stuff that I've been feeling with, I didn't have to live with it. So that's kind of, people don't really realize, because you get very used to and accustomed to what your body's been dealing with over the course of time. So I challenge people, if they're saying, well, hey, I don't have anything wrong, I'll be like, well, let's at least just try something out and just see how you can feel. Because oftentimes people will be like, oh my God, I had no idea I could feel this good. I didn't know I could have this much energy. So yeah.
Love it. Okay. So I want to ask about a couple of, I want to ask about cupping.
Yeah.
I did cupping. Becca did it on I always have problems with my calves. It's always my lower body calves. When I come in for a massage, it's always, Becca, just lower body calves. That's what we need to do. Tell me, what the heck is cupping? What the hell is it? And why does it help? And explain it to me. Explain it to my listeners.
Sure. Cupping is where you basically have either a glass or plastic, or some use silicone kind of cups. And what that does is it actually uses a suction. Traditional acupuncturists will use fire cupping. I am not that cool at all. I do like the suction thing, all right?
That's what Michael Phelps had at the Olympics. Remember that one year? That's where we all were like, what the hell is that on him? Oh, that's cupping. That's when at first my wife and I were like, what is that? Oh, okay.
I don't think
so. You don't do the heated ones. You do the suction ones, right?
I do suction. Yeah, I do like a mechanical suction. And what it does is it pulls the skin layer away, kind of uses suction to kind of pull it away from the skin. And then it opens up what's called the fascia, which is the connective tissue between the skin and the muscle. So oftentimes that fascia is really tight. And when there's muscle spasms, it can all get really tight, compressed, kind of locked together. And there should be some good blood flow in between there. And so what cupping does is it kind of helps to separate those tissues, allows the blood flow to get in there, allows the lymphatics to flow, and it just kind of helps relieve that tension. So there's probably way more like ancient stuff to it. I'm not the most versed, I would say, on that. That's just what I see in the
Yeah.
practice. And people can get in a 15-minute cupping session the kind of feeling they would get from a massage. Like it's that quick.
Wow. Yeah. I did it once and absolutely did help. I'm just so lazy on coming in to do that stuff. And I know every time I've come in, Becca just does a great. Becca is the massage therapist
Mhm.
at Healthy Living Chiropractic, and she does a great job. And I just don't go in enough. So
Yeah.
that's my bad. That's my fault. Cupping, massage. You don't do acupuncture.
I don't.
Have you ever had that done?
Oh, yeah.
That's
I
and
did that
that's
before my injury that I think we may be discussing later. Yeah,
okay.
I don't do
All
it.
right.
There are some chiros that do. I honestly believe I could take a couple weekend courses and get certified in acupuncture. I honestly believe that is an acupuncturist realm. I don't want to dive into their
Yeah.
space. I do my
Yeah.
own stuff.
That's definitely Eastern medicine, folks.
100%. Yeah.
That's definitely Eastern medicine. I have heard anyone that I've talked to who's done it has been like, "Oh yeah, it works. It absolutely works." And
Agreed.
I'm managing my stuff fine, so I'm not there yet, but I would try it sometime. Okay, so now I want to talk about for sure. I want to talk about quantum nutrition testing.
Okay.
We're at like almost. Gosh, time flies when I do these things. I hope you're still having fun.
I'm having a good time.
So I was scrolling through your Instagram, and I usually watch your videos, and sometimes I'll watch, like all of us, I'll watch the first minute or two, and then I get distracted in something else, and then I don't finish it
Yeah.
right away. I went back and watched your one on quantum nutrition testing, and my jaw hit the floor. I was like, holy, what in the world? And so would you be willing to tell your story and then talk a little bit about, because I still don't understand what quantum nutrition testing is, but your story of how you started discovering that and researching that, I think is fascinating, and I think people would really like to hear that. So
Of course.
I'll let you share your story.
Sure. Yeah. So kind of the story that Joey's referring to, I posted a video maybe 3 weeks ago, kind of about kind of my journey. And I'll give you the quick version of it. So a couple of years ago, I think it was fall of 21, I started noticing some vision loss in my right eye. And it was weird because I could kind of start losing the mouse when I was doing notes. I'm like, where'd the mouse go? And I noticed that I couldn't see out of the right side of my eye. I went to see the doctor, an eye doctor. He actually referred me to his dad, who owns the practice, and was like, something's weird. I think I need you to see my dad, which I don't think I shared that in the original video. Yeah. So, and I was like, well, should I go in next
not
week?
good.
He's like, no, I think you should make an appointment like as soon as possible. I'm like
Oh wow, this is
like,
getting worse.
yeah, today. I'm like, okay, thinking, all right. So I make an appointment with his dad. His dad does some tests. He's like, I want you to get an MRI. I'm like, okay, I'll get an MRI. I get the MRI done. And being a provider, I had access to log into the portal because I generally will send my patients to the same imaging center. The next day I looked at it and I about shat my pants when I looked at it because there was a 6 centimeter lesion about this big in my brain.
Oh my God.
I mean, and
Oh my God.
yeah, so it was huge. And on one of my videos, I do show
You on the Instagram post, I think you have a slide of that because I remember seeing that going, "Oh my God,
Yeah.
what?"
Yeah.
Yeah, even a layperson would have looked at that and gone, "What the hell is that?"
Yes, you can see it. It's very big and it's right there. And so I lost it. I just lost
Yeah.
it. And I'm reading the report and it says under the differential diagnoses that the radiologist says, tumefactive MS, that's a type of MS, or malignant neoplasm, which is essentially a malignant brain cancer.
Cancerous, brain
Cancer of the brain, yeah. So I lost it. I called my husband crying and we went and made an appointment for a neurologist. The neurologist was like, well, you're too healthy. I'm like, because I'd gone for like a 3-mile run that morning. And he's like, well, you can't have MS because you're too healthy. I'm like, well, okay, but there's this big thing in my brain. What is it?
Yeah. Did they do? Here's a question for you. My ex-spouse had MS.
Okay.
And I know it took a long time to diagnose for her. Did they do a spinal tap, or did he just?
They wanted to do a spinal tap, and they wanted to do an actual biopsy. They wanted to go into my brain and do a biopsy.
Oh my God.
And that's what
Drill into your head.
Yes. And And when he said that, because he said, well, first of all, he said it's not a brain tumor because it didn't look like it was a space occupying lesion. So that was huge. I was very happy about that. But MS was the next differential diagnosis.
Yeah.
And I decided not to go in and have that done. And that's when I decided I needed to kind of figure out another option, take something into my own hands. And I was listening to a podcast at the time of a guy that I had found. He's a chiropractor as well out of Florida. And he was not there that night. His wife was actually doing the show. And so I was on live and she's just taking questions and she's a chiropractor as well. And so I kind of typed in, I'm like, hey, I have this lesion in my brain. Have you ever seen this before? And she's like, actually, I have. She's like, I have had patients that have had that. I would love the opportunity to see you or to talk to you about it. And I'm like, okay, here's someone that may have answers for me. And I set up an appointment with her and she did the quantum nutrition testing, which I had never heard of at the time. But she did the quantum testing on me, determined that it was most likely a parasitic lesion in my brain. So parasites in my brain creating that lesion. And that's what was causing my vision loss.
Okay, so that's better, but that's still really freaky. You've got a parasite in your brain.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how did she determine that? Through this quantum nutrition testing?
Yep, exactly. So basically what it is you can kind of, have you ever heard of muscle testing before?
No.
Okay. Muscle testing is basically a way to kind of help. It uses frequencies and it uses energy in order to kind of pick up on what the body is saying. So some people will use an arm, like you'll kind of push down on the arm like this. I'll do that when I'm in person. And then I can also do what's called a snap test, or this is a quantum test. This is a strong muscle. This is a weak muscle. And so I can actually, I've been trained to muscle test. Like my name is Adrienne. My name is Joey. Like I get a no. My name is Joey. Like I can't get it, but my name is Adrienne. Okay. That's a true, like it's frequency, it's truth.
Okay.
That's kind of how it works. And it's a really amazing technique. So basically she took all of my information. She quantum tested the data that I said. She went through different causes. Is it this? Is it that? Is it parasites? Oh, it's parasites. And then she was able to muscle test like what remedies or which supplements or which things by going down a list of this one, not that one, this one would help her. And was the way that she tested the data.
Wow.
Put together a program for me and here I am.
Wow. And so you don't have that parasitic lesion in your brain anymore.
I don't.
It's all gone.
Mm-mm. Yeah.
Oh, do you know how it got there? Like what caused it? Was it nutrition that caused it?
It's hard to say. I loved sushi. Sushi is raw fish.
Okay. Yeah.
Raw meats. I mean, parasites come from a lot of different sources. Raw meats is one of them. In the ground, I love to garden, which I would never say stop going in your garden barefoot because I love it because it's so good for you. They're in the water. They're in bug bites. They're in your pets. Our dogs most likely have them too. So. All
right. Wow.
Yeah.
So she gives you all of this, and is it mostly diet then? That in supplements and things like that that you're doing to get yourself back to where you are today?
Yep, primarily supplements. Yeah. And so after going through a program for probably a year and a half, I was feeling so much better. Like other aspects, kind of like the chiropractic story I was saying before, I didn't really realize how crappy I felt. I had a lot of digestive stuff. I had a lot of chronic sinus issues. All of these have been completely resolved because I've cleaned out my body in other ways too. So it's been great. And then my practitioner was like, well, actually, she's going to be hosting and teaching these in seminars. I'm like, sign me up.
So you're qualified to do the quantum nutrition testing?
Yep, I've taken all 3 levels of quantum nutrition testing.
I always have a lot of links in my show notes. So I'm going to have a link to your business, to your Instagram. I highly recommend people check out Dr. Adrienne's Instagram. You don't get nearly enough, unless it's a baby, you don't get nearly enough views on your stuff.
I agree.
Is there a good resource that I should include a link for quantum nutrition testing, just some basic information that you or just should they just reach out to you?
They could just reach out to me. Dr. Palmer's site I would not say is that good, and she's self-admits she's become a really good friend of mine actually now. She said that her site is not very good either, and my website's is going to be going through a rehab as well. It needs it. There's a little bit on my site as well. My healthy.
All right, so that's fine. That's fine. Well, that's fascinating. That is really cool. I had never heard of it before
Yeah.
until I went to your Instagram and I was like, what in the world? That is crazy.
Let me just kind of say with the quantum nutrition testing, there's so many different people that I see that are dealing with like any sort of digestive issues, brain fog, problem sleeping. Those are kind of the really, really big things I see that we can help a ton with, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
Yeah. And one more thing on that. You mentioned your first symptom was your vision going.
ah,
My ex-spouse who had MS, that was the first thing was
mhm,
her vision.
yeah.
She lost her vision, like tunnel vision. So when I heard you say that, I was like, oh God, did you have MS? Obviously you didn't, but yeah,
Well,
scary.
Joey, honestly, I believe that if I had gone down the medical model and gone through that route, I would have been diagnosed with it. I firmly
Wow.
believe that. I do.
Wow.
I do.
Crazy.
You know,
Yeah,
I
it is
picked a different
crazy.
path. And I know others that have had, I have another colleague who had been diagnosed with MS probably 12, 13 years ago, and that she's now in the same doing the same things I am because of her
Yeah.
diagnosis. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and I remember that was a huge. I mean, diet and nutrition is, folks, it's everything. If you have cancer, if you have MS, whatever you're dealing with,
Yeah.
it really comes down to that. I know that for a fact.
Well, those are all symptoms of an underlying issue. That's the biggest take home here is cancer is a symptom. I mean, it's
Yeah.
an end disease, but there's a cause. What's the cause? Like that's the big thing we do
Yeah.
with this is looking for what the cause is. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
mhm.
I would like to talk if you have time about fasting. Was that recently you did the fasting thing?
It was in
Okay.
January. Yeah.
So tell us about fasting because you did another great post on your Instagram about fasting. What made you do that? Kind of how it works, how it worked for you. Because I hear about fasting, I think of intermittent fasting. Some of these trends. When I listened to your post, I was like, I'm gonna say holy shit, but it's like I didn't know all of that. So
Yeah.
give me the elevator spiel on fasting.
I'm gonna give my husband 100% credit because it was all him. He had gotten this fasting book. He's been talking about doing it for a few years, and he got this book, and he did, I want to say like a 3 or 4 day fast last year. And he's like, "You need to do it. Will you do it with me next year?" I'm like, "I'll do it next year. Yeah, sure." So it really wasn't me. It was 100% him.
We
And
should have him on the
yeah,
podcast.
that's right.
Yeah.
It was 100% him. And so I was like, sure, I'll try it. And so I read parts of the book. Jason Fung, it's like, I think it's called The Art of Fasting, is the book
Okay.
that I referenced. And I've got it on my Instagram as well, too. But it was a really easy read, tons of science behind it. And I've kind of listened to other people and, practitioners talk about fasting and how autophagy is kind of where your body cells kind of eat itself, which is good. Like our bodies need to have a break from food, honestly, to break itself down. Like we really should.
Really?
We're a very hunter gatherer society. We're not supposed to have food at the ready. We are meant to go through levels of fasting if you go all the way back to like ancient times and
They
like that.
they didn't have cheeseburgers 5,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago. Is that what you're
No,
saying?
no, it's like, are you going to get your bison or not? If not, you got your
Right?
berries. So
And you got to chase it. You
you
got to
got
chase it off a
you
cliff.
got to chase it. So there's a
Yeah.
ton of science behind it, and it's just really good for your digestive system to have a break. I mean, we are just, I think in our culture, we're very conditioned to have your breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks. And I mean, that's kind of how I've always been taught. So this was very, very new to me. And I really had no idea what to expect when I decided to embark on my fasting journey. I was like, I think I'm going to do 3 days. 3 days just seemed fair. I'm like, okay, I'll do 3 days. And day one, I was like, okay, this isn't so bad. I could have tea with, I could have coffee with cream. I was like, all right, I can do that.
I'd have to have coffee with cream because
Yep.
I'd be dead without it.
Not like
So
your chemical creamers, like your good old cream, right? Right. So you can have coffee with cream. I'm like, okay, check. You can have
got it.
water, you can have bone broth, and I make my own bone broth. So,
Okay.
that's kind of like your nourishment is like the bone broth. You can,
Do you get your electrolytes from that then? Because I assume you need some salt or electrolytes, right?
yeah, yeah. I mean, I was doing water, and tea. You can put lemon in your water. You can put fruit in your water. I wasn't doing any, like I could have potentially maybe done like the Endura electrolytes. I didn't do any of those. I mean, you can get them as you can put a little salt in your water, but the bone broth was great because it's pretty salty and you can add stuff to it. So, but yeah, so I just did that. I did some tea, and in the first day or so was actually not bad. The second day I started getting like almost in the evening, like flu like body aches. It was weird. Like my bones hurt. I was like, oh, this is weird. But then I had some bone broth and it was very nourishing and warm and like, okay, it's salty, which was great. And then day 3, I think I had a headache, kind of just a nasty headache, like in the afternoon, just my body saying, hey, something's happening.
What are you doing to me?
Yeah, what are you doing to me? But I wasn't really that hungry. I mean, if I would have some bone broth and that was like enough. I was like, oh yeah, that's really satisfying. Like it just was good. I don't know. It surprised me how, I don't want to say easy, but you have to have your mindset right. I mean, because you really don't need all the food, The hunger stuff is more mental, and your body's conditioned, your brain's conditioned to have that next stimulus, you know what I mean? So once you just tell yourself, I'm not doing that, you're like, okay. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's fascinating. You say we don't need the food because we feel like, and what did you say? There's a certain amount of hours that you go without eating when your body, is it 6 hours
6
or 8 hours?
Yep. Yeah. So exactly. So the blood sugar, I'm trying to remember. Now it's been a bit since I've done that one. I don't have my notes in front of me.
No, that's
let's say
fine.
like the first 6 hours is kind of getting the sugar out of the blood, right? And then the insulin comes in, and you burn that. But then within that first 20, then it goes into taking the glycogen out of your liver. So like your liver is a storage for your energy, for your sugar, right? So it grabs it from there. And after 24 hours, because your liver has a storage for about 24 hours of glycogen. Then after that 24 hours, then it goes to your fat cells, which is like what we all want if we're trying to like lose a little weight, right?
Yeah.
Is after a day, then it goes directly into your fat storage to grab it. I mean, your body has all these really cool mechanisms to balance itself out.
All of that science, I got to tell you, is fascinating. And in the ultra running world, I mean, there's podcast after podcast about nutrition, and I'm just fascinated by it. I don't understand half of it.
Yeah, I don't either.
So you did for 3 days, or how long did your fast go for?
I did
3 days.
And then after that, I've kind of been intermittent fasting since then. I wake up in the morning and I'm just not hungry. And so I've been kind of waiting until around noon or 1. So I go through my whole morning, especially at work, and I eat kind of between that 1 and 8 o'clock. It's kind of been, I haven't been super regimented with it, but I've kind of moved into that intermittent fasting, and I really like it. Just feels good.
So it's a myth that breakfast is the most important meal. That's a myth.
It depends on what you're eating for breakfast, but yeah. I mean, there's some people that like eat first thing in the morning and then don't eat like a dinner. Like have a nice like a heavy lunch, early dinner, and then they don't eat, for their 12 hours.
The trick is just not to graze all day long and night long, right?
Yeah.
Pay attention, Joey. Take notes.
I know, right? Yeah.
So did your husband, did he fast with you for those 3 days?
No, he did it the week after I did. I know.
So he was eating steak. How are you doing, hon? This steak is delicious.
Yes. Oh, I had to make it.
Funny. Yeah.
I'm like, here you go. It wasn't as hard as I thought, though. He did it the following week. So
is this something you're doing the intermittent fasting? Will you do like a 3-day?
I think so.
Like on a certain schedule, once a year, a couple times a year or something?
I feel like I want to do it at least twice a year. Yeah, that's kind of what seems right now. So maybe in a month or so, I'll do another one.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I liked it.
Okay, let's get into your athletic running background. Okay. So everyone I've had on the podcast, I've been like, did you do athletics? Oh, yeah. Yep. I was on track, cross country. I played hockey, football. I'm like, I was on the chess team. I was on the physics team. I did theater. I did have my one stint, junior high, on the track team. So tell me your athletic history. Did you you just said you did. You did gymnastics. What did you all do for athletics as a kid?
I mean, running around the neighborhood, we used to run races with the boys, and I'd beat half of them down the street, and I'd play baseball with my brother. It was me and a bunch of boys. So I grew up with a ton of boys in my neighborhood. So I always played football and baseball with them, and ran races. But I
Yep.
started gymnastics when I was 8. I was kind of a little late to the gymnastics
Wow.
game, and I loved it. So I was a competitive gymnast for 2 seasons, and then I got stress fractures in both of my wrists, and so
Oh no.
I had to take a year off essentially and rest those. And when I took that year off, my gym closed.
Oh
So so
no.
that was a gigantic bummer. So then I was like, well, now what am I going to do? So I think I was 13 at the time, and I was like, well, I could go be a cheerleader because I could do that and I can do all the tumbling. That's just easy. So
Sure.
I did
Yeah.
cheerleading, but I did have a stint of junior high track. I did two
There we
years.
go.
And I was a
I knew it.
sprinter and I was quick. I was really
Okay.
fast.
Okay. Well, let's get into it. You were a sprinter. What distance did you do?
100 and 200 in the 4x1.
Oh my gosh, that's legit
Yeah,
sprinter.
that was fast.
Do you remember any of your
No,
times? No.
no. But I have medals. I have
Uh,
medals. I got, in
what?
junior high track, I medaled and got a couple firsts and a couple seconds. And
You're kidding.
yeah.
Oh my
And the
God.
reason I didn't continue with it is because I had terrible shin splints. Terrible shin splints. Like I used to go to PT,
You
and
should have saw a chiropractor.
I should have seen a chiropractor, correct, and gotten orthotics, because once I got orthotics when I was in college, chiropractic school, my shin splints
There you
went
go.
away.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. Okay, so you're doing it junior high, high school. You got shin splints. You
I did
hang up the
cheerleading.
running shoes,
Yep. I did cheerleading.
and not doing gymnastics. Did you do any athletics in college, or just studied?
No, I
Yeah.
took care of the athletes.
Got it. When did you start? Because you run now, and we're
Mhm.
going to talk about the injury you had, real quickly last fall
Yeah.
and your recovery from that. You run now. When did you start doing your running that you're doing now? Was that recently, or has that been a
Oh,
while?
it's been a while. When I was in undergrad, I had a friend that liked to run. She's like, "Will you go with me?" I'm like, "Oh, I hate running. Like I hated distance running. I used to cheat. I used to cheat when we had to do like
Cheat.
running. When we had to do yeah, when I was in junior high track, we'd have to do like distance days, and I would like cheat.
You cut across the golf course
Yes,
or
cut
something?
across the golf course. We used to have to run the golf course. I'd like totally cheat and be like, "Oh, that was great."
I'm so fast.
I'm
Yeah.
so fast.
You were a sprinter. You're not supposed to be doing distance. Come on. So you had a
I had
friend
a
and
friend, so we would
yeah.
go running. We would run the 1.5. It was like a little loop around our neighborhood and someone else's. It was the mile and a half. It's the one. We're gonna go do the 1.5. So that's kind of how it started, and I would do
Okay.
it occasionally here and there. But I would say more of like when I was no, even after chiropractic school, I just kind of started. And I kind of
Yeah.
liked doing it on the treadmill. I never really did outside much. It was just kind of treadmill just before like a workout, kind of like what you were saying, like what you were doing.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah,
do
that's
it then.
and now you mostly run outside now, right? You don't do a lot of treadmill stuff anymore, or is it
I do if I yeah,
half and half?
I prefer to be outside.
Yeah.
My injury kind of took that down a little bit. It's definitely harder
Okay.
now. So I'm doing a bit more treadmill now than I am. I had an outdoor run the other day. I went the longest I've gone since I had my surgery, and it did not feel good. Like the
Oh
last
no.
night, I was like, "Ooh, it's sore." And it's just letting me know. It's letting me know
Yeah.
it's a little too much too soon. So
Yeah, yeah.
you know,
Just
just listen
it's
to
speaking to you.
it's
It's
telling you
speaking to you.
stories.
Telling you a story. So, real quickly, your injury last year, it was a meniscus tear,
hmm
the same as our quarterback on the Vikings. Is similar to what?
I'm sure his was a lot worse than mine. Yeah, I tore my medial meniscus running. I was on a run and
Yeah.
I with my dog, and it was probably going about 4 miles. And mind you, I'm like a 3 to 4 miles once or twice a week. That's my happy place, right? If I go twice a
Yep.
week, I'm like, yeah. Um,
Nice.
but I was on a run in October, like mid to late October, and I felt my knee
Okay.
kind of tighten up, and I was like, "Ooh, that's just tight." I didn't feel like a snap or a pop. I just was kind of like, "Ooh, it feels really tight." So I walked like the mile and a half home, and started swelling up, and then it started kind of catching after a week or two, and I was like, "Ooh, I know what that is." because it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, it would
I
not go.
I need some Western medicine on this.
Yes, I went in and I was
Yeah.
like, give me an
Yeah.
MRI. They're like, we need to do an X-ray first. I'm like, I have a torn meniscus. Do an MRI, and I did.
Oh,
And there
wow.
was a little piece that like stuck into the joint, like a flap, or they call like a bucket handle tear. And so it was
Yep.
sticking into the joint. I'm sorry if this is gross, but it just was,
No, it's
it
fine.
would just like, it would just catch. And every time I would move, I felt like my leg was just going to totally, like it was completely unstable. And it wasn't. It was fine, but it hurt so bad. It was
Oh, so
terrible.
how long after when you injured it before you got your surgery then?
Probably about 4 to 6 weeks. It was about 6 weeks, I think. It was awful.
Okay.
It was awful. Trying to do my job. I was like, you saw me. I was kind of like,
Oh, I know.
I was like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have
You
him do these. I'm my intern. It
Yeah, yeah, of course. I don't know, yeah, how you would do
was
that.
terrible.
So you have the surgery, and what do they tell you for recovery before you can run again after the surgery? Is it
Yeah, he basically told me about 10 to 12 weeks until I could start
10
running.
to 12?
Yeah, it really, I was like, yeah, this is great. He would expect me to be kind of back running in 12 weeks.
All right.
So they didn't have
Wow.
to repair the meniscus. They just cut off a small piece. So if they would have
Okay.
had to repair it, that would have been a much longer recovery.
Okay.
So I
All
didn't
right.
have that. So that's why it was on that lighter end. But yeah,
Okay.
I was able to bear weight getting out of the surgery, and I did a lot of my own, like a lot of rehab, and I did some kind of at-home things and nutrition wise. I did a lot of really good supplements and things to help to keep my collagen good
Yep.
and everything and
Yeah.
inflammation down. Like, you know,
And was it 10 to 12 weeks later
yeah,
before you try to run?
yeah, yeah.
And did you start outside or did you try on a
I tried
treadmill?
on a treadmill. Nope, I was
Yeah.
not going outside. That's a little
No.
too many elements, too much.
Yep.
Yep, and I did
Yep.
like would do like a minute here, and I was like, all right, cool, I feel it, and it just
Yep.
kind of ramped up slowly after that. And yeah, now
And
I feel really good.
now you're back up. Other than the long session that
Yeah,
it happened recently, you're back up. Can you like 20 minutes, 15,
I did
30 minutes
I
in
did
that range
30 on
now?
the treadmill with some
Okay.
intervals and some hills last week, and it was awesome. It was
Okay.
like 32 minutes. But yeah, the run I did on Saturday, one of the 2 days, I went like 3.5 miles and
Okay.
just a little bit too much.
Too far.
A little bit.
Now you don't have the dog on the treadmill. When I run on the treadmill, you're not on Strava. I'm on Strava. It's my social it's my social media. And I always like Ricky, my little Ricky. He comes up, he lays on the bed next to the treadmill and he just sleeps. He's my coach.
That's so
And
cute.
so he's not an outdoor dog. I can't take him running outside, but I take him running on the treadmill. What's your dog's name? Toby?
Toby, yeah, he's an
Yeah.
Australian Shepherd, so he loves to run. Like that's his
Yeah, I
job.
bet.
So
I bet.
he's happy as a clam.
So, have you ever done since like junior high, any races, any 5Ks, any,
I
what,
did a
what's your
5K.
racing history?
Not much. I don't really
Yeah.
like to race. I don't know. I did a couple 5Ks for like charities, and
Yeah.
I did a triathlon. Basically, I had a patient.
What?
Like yeah, like oh God, like 17 years ago, this guy comes in working on me. He's like, I think I'm gonna do a triathlon. I'm like, well, that sounds cool. I'm like, maybe I should do one. I decided
What?
to do a triathlon. Yeah.
And how did that go?
It was awesome. You know what? I thought that the swim was going to be the worst because I'm not a swimmer.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I hired a trainer to kind of help me with my stroke and whatever.
Yeah.
And the swim was great. The bike kicked my butt because
You're
I
kidding.
used a bike that I won at a bar.
Oh my gosh.
My, bu-
Okay.
my free bike that I won at the bar playing trivia.
Yeah.
Times I was
Wow.
put road tires
So
on it. It was awful.
we're surprised it didn't hold up through the triathlon.
I mean, it held up, but I
Wow.
got my leg went
Yeah.
numb and I had to stop. Like the 22-mile bike was awful, but the swim was great. Then I did the
Yeah.
5K after that. It was a sprint triathlon, but I was like,
Okay.
check. I'm not gonna do that again. But it was awesome.
So it was a one and done.
Yeah,
You did it.
yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. I've never done any kind of triathlon. We're getting close on time here. What's your future running goals or plans? Are you just trying to get back to 2 outdoor runs a week? Because that's kind of your current
Yeah,
plans.
that's my
Yep.
next thing is being able to get to that place again. Yeah, I
Okay.
did a couple years ago. I told myself I wanted to do a 10K, and I didn't go do a race, but I did a 10K with Toby.
Yeah.
He was my partner, and that was awesome.
Nice.
So I think I'd like to get back there again. You know,
Okay.
I think
All right.
I think I'd like to do that again.
I preach the gospel of trail running. Can I ever get you out running trails
Let me
with
make sure
Toby?
the knee's in good shape. But I'd be down. I think it'd
Yeah.
be really cool,
Yeah.
actually. Yeah, I'd like to go
I've
around with you.
I've I've told you know my whole story. I'm a trail runner, and runner is in quotes because I do a lot of walking. Not gonna lie, but it is so different than running on the roads because you're working your ankles, you're working your feet, you're keeping your balance. Even by going slow, I just preach trail running because you're number one, you're out in nature.
Yeah.
You're out in beautiful areas, you're hiking on these cool paths, and then your workout I think is just times 10 because you're having to navigate through all kinds of unknown territory. But
Yeah, I've never done it before,
um
so I'd be interested for sure.
all right, well, I know where to find you. We're gonna wrap this up. I've got these. This might change over time, but I'm sticking with my original thought here. I've got these questions I do. We'll try to get through them pretty quickly. My first is, what's a hobby you enjoy doing other than running? I mean, running's not your like me. I'm kind of obsessed with trail running, but what's something you like to do, you and the
Hard.
family, other than running?
It's a hard question because
Is it?
sometimes I have a lot. I have a lot going on kind of all the time. So hobbies.
Is it
I
doing trivia at the bar and winning bicycles?
When I
Is
was in
that?
my 20s, it was. I really I enjoy reading. I'm kind of a nonfiction nerd, so
Ooh.
I love reading. I'm not like a fantasy. I just give me a good nonfiction
So,
book and bring it.
nonfiction, any particular topics that you gravitate to?
Mostly health,
History? Oh, okay.
no, mostly like health stuff,
Got it. Okay.
personal development, your self-help
Nice.
type things. I'm always like how best to learn about myself or how best to like figure people out. I don't know.
Oh,
I
that's
parenting.
why you're so good at what you do because
Yeah,
you do all that reading.
I like it.
I got this from
Gardening.
yes.
Gardening is my hobby.
There you go. There you
Yes,
go.
so
Gardening.
gardening.
No, there it is. Reading,
Garden.
nonfiction, and gardening.
Yes.
Love it. Perfect. One of my Strava guys was like, he's from Ireland, and he's like, you should ask people their 5 favorite pieces of gear. And for, trail ultra nerds, yes, we all are like, we can literally talk for 2 hours about gear. It may not be the same for you, but when you go out to do a running outside, what are, 4 or 5 things you like to have with? Is music the dog? Is there a certain pair of shoes you like? It could be anything.
Well, my shoes are on my feet, so Brooks Ghost.
Brooks Ghost. Oh, thank you. Very good.
Ghost with
Yep.
with my orthotics, because if I don't run without my orthotics, then I get
So
shin.
that's 2. Brooks
That's two.
Ghost, orthotics.
Yep.
Toby is Toby.
Toby, yes, of course, Toby.
That's 3.
Um,
Music or no music?
I use an app called Active that has a running coach with it. So like I pick my workout and I get my boyfriend Wes. He's my favorite. He's out of Southern
All right.
California.
Nice.
No, but
Okay.
I have that, and
Yeah.
it kind of like talks me through it, and he's telling stories. So like, okay, Wes, my
Okay.
my active
Very
person.
nice.
And if it's in the winter time, my heated socks.
Wonderful.
Heated socks are a game
Wonderful.
changer in the winter.
Are these ones that like you can recharge by plugging them into USB? Yeah.
Yes, they changed my life. Changed my life.
Perfect. That was perfect. 5 pieces of gear. My last 2 questions, a podcast that you enjoy besides running behind. We all know that's going to be your new favorite one.
Right.
What's another one besides my podcast that you enjoy listening to?
God, you know what? I have to be honest. I don't do a ton of podcasting. I really need to do more. And it's also still kind of the whole like still in a nonfiction like the pediatric group that I got my certification through has a podcast that I really love a lot of their topics. So through the ICPA, the wealthy practitioner, she's another girl I really like too. So,
All right.
but I need to
All
get
right.
more into it. So that's a TBD question.
Got it.
And yours.
Very good. Final question. I was famous for running the 2-mile race at Minot High School in 1985. I came in pretty much last every time. My fastest time for 2 miles was about 15 minutes. What do you think your fastest time in 2 minutes? It can be in your prime. It can be, Back when you were cheating, running across the golf course, doing the 100 and 200 meter.
I didn't go 2 miles then. I probably didn't do 2 miles until I was in college. But I would say it was probably like a few years ago. I think I was running a lot, and I was doing, I think I did 2 minutes in about that 15-minute time, like 7.5 to 8 minutes.
Yeah, I don't think I could get close to that today, so that's pretty good.
I'm like a 10. I'm happy if I'm a 10 and a half minute miler. That's my happy place. But
that's a lot of my audience, Dr. Adrienne, I'm more than that. I'm like 12-minute miles is kind of my cruising speed, 11 to 12.
Yeah.
If I can do that, my goal is to not go faster, but try to do that all day long.
Yeah.
So,
a couple years
mixing with some walking.
A couple years ago, my goal was 9 minutes. And so I did like some 9-minute miles for a while. I was in great shape. It was awesome. So I kind of liked that, but 10's my happy spot.
Love it.
Yeah.
Awesome. This has been great. Have we not covered anything that we need to cover?
I think we've covered a lot of things.
Yeah, I think so too.
This has been fun.
I appreciate you coming on the podcast, and I'll see you for my next appointment in a couple of weeks.
Sounds great, Joey. I really appreciate you.
Thank you.
It's been awesome.
All right. Episode 4, Adjusted, Aligned, and in the books. I hope you enjoyed getting to know Dr. Adrienne and exploring all those topics. Maybe you knew about some of them, or maybe you just weren't that interested. That's all totally fine. I was fascinated myself. But thank you for listening. I have been receiving a lot of great support so far on the podcast, and I'm extremely grateful for each and every one of you. And a special apology goes out to my buddy Graham in Ireland. I did not mean to say you were from the UK. Thanks for listening, Graham. And don't forget to check out my YouTube channel, Run Joey Run. You'll find a link in the show notes, as well as links to Dr. Adrienne's business, her Instagram, and even that post where she got about 12 million views. Until next time, cheers. Take care. Keep running, keep walking, keep moving. Hang in there and stay optimistic. One step at a time. You got this.